Okay, on today's episode, we're going to be changing fuel filters on a 6.7 PowerStroke diesel, and this is going to be for a 2011 up to a 2016. We're going to be using OEM filters, and there's a part number for it. And we'll go ahead and start by doing the primary filter. It's located under the driver's side seat. This is on the frame rail. What we have here is our oil catch to catch any fuel that's going to come out. Okay, we'll go ahead and put this back on. I'd already started on this. Alright, so here we are. Now, it's very important you take note which way your water and fuel sensor and drain is pointing, which should be straight across to the passenger side, because this is where the fuel filter will end up once it's tight. So every time you go to tighten this, as you go clockwise, once it starts to get back towards the passenger side, slow up, because it has plastic stop tabs located on the pump and this filter cap, and you don't want to break them by turning it too hard. Now I've actually already started to loosen this just to aid in the speed of the video here. But this is going to be a 32 millimeter socket to fit this. You mash your tab, unplug your water and fuel sensor. I like to take it and just let it hang up here at the top out of the way. Here's also a tip. Now this has already been loosened, and you can see the gap between the cap and the filter housing itself. So if you have a gap at all up here, that's going to indicate our fuel filter is not tight. So that's an aid to look at to verify if this cap is all the way tight or not. It shouldn't have a gap at all. It should be touching the pump housing. We'll go ahead and loosen this up. It's already been broke loose. Go ahead and turn this thing. This is actually just a little bit early on this truck. It still had about another 4,000 miles to go before it needed filters. I like to change fuel filters on these every 15,000 miles. It's a little early, but it's, it's an expensive fuel system, so I like to keep the fuel that's running into this thing clean. It should be about ready to drop. As soon as I have fuel in it, so get ready for some fuel. It's a little dirty here. So this is compared to a brand new filter to our filter. This filter has about 11,000 miles on it. And we just went through a hurricane, so some of the times the fuel quality and cleanliness isn't the greatest. So we're going to just pull that straight out, sit over there, and we're going to get in here. This is a water separator, so everything, some trash and water is going to separate in here. So we're going to dump this fuel out. We're just going to take some standard oil brake clean and clean that out and get it prepped for the new filter. And we'll slide back under. We're going to take the old O-ring off the pump, install the new one. I like to add a little lube to it. I use just clear silicone grease to help aid in spinning this on so it's not so tight, and help protect the O-ring to keep from tearing or rolling it as this is screwed on. Alright, now this is our housing after it's been brake clean and bloated out with air and get any debris out. It's fairly easy and straightforward to install the filter in it. Just going to set the cap down. Sorry, the lighting's not that great on this side of the shop because all the lights are in that direction. But you take this, is going to be the bottom, and just take it and push it down, and that's the filter there. Now we're going to slide back under, and we're going to take the old O-ring off, we'll go ahead and lube the new O-ring and show us installing that. Alright, so we're going back under here. I'm going to be removing our O-ring. It's just a little pick here. Just take it and like roll it over and just kind of pull it off. Make sure you ring the old catch. Okay. We got the new one here, and I like to put some. I'll show it here in the clip once we get up towards the top. But I will like to lube it up just a little bit, and just try and do this one-handed here. A little difficult. But we're just going to take this, I'll roll it on. Take your fingers. We're going to push it all the way up to the top slot there, and roll it in, just like that. Alright, wipe our hand off, and we gotta grab our cap here, the OEM filter. Screw this puppy on, and I take a little bit of that silicone and I put a little bit on the threads. It kind of aids in install, so it's not so tough once it does get tight. And you just keep an eye on that gap up here at the top. It'll get smaller and smaller. It's a very good indicator. Let's see if I can catch that lock tab. Maybe that's on the other side of the pump. Or that's not pump, but the cap here. I'm going to rotate around. So we're going to grab our, it's a 32 mil socket. Let's do this one-handed here. And just, there you go, 32 millimeter. Tighten this thing up. Actually, there's a stopper right there. So that's the stop right here. And there's another one on the fuel pump that once it gets tight, they're going to touch one another. It's going to be on the front side of this towards the transfer case. This is a four-wheel drive truck. Alright, so we'll spin this thing around. Alright, now watch our water and fuel drain. This should be the last turn. So water and fuel drain, it should stop once you get start or it's pointing towards the passenger side. And it'll ease up. That's it right there. You kind of give it a little bump, and that's tight. Ooh, about dropped that in the old catch. So it'll look just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to slide out, grab some brake clean. We're going to brake clean this off, all this off, and then we'll plug in our water and fuel. Just pop it down, click it in, we're good to go. And then we'll move up to the secondary fuel filter. Okay, now we're up to the secondary filter. We sprayed off our primary filter, the fuel filter cap, and make sure you plug in the water and fuel sensor so it will work like it's supposed to. So right here is our secondary filter, these two lines. We'll go ahead and take a rag and put underneath the lines because it's going to have a little bit of fuel to come out. Okay, now this is some precautionary advice. Be very careful with these connections, especially this one here. This is going to be your return line for your fuel injectors. Do not break it. You don't rough house this. If you can't get it apart easily, just take a break, come back to it, but be sure that you disconnect these clips properly and verify they are secured once you're finished. This one has the blue clip. You're just going to push it. Let's get the lighting a little better here. We're going to push it towards the driver's side, and then we're going to push these down just like that. Okay, and then you're going to pull this off. Make sure our clip's all the way out. And it's going to come off like that. And then we're going to push our, I like to push these towards the filter and kind of wiggle them a little bit. Push both of these in on both sides. And then kind of ease them off. There's a tab on both sides. You just want to press these in, And there, lay this off to the side. Now I've actually changed this filter so not a lot of fuel has come out. I like to use 2 rags, but this is just one for instructional purposes. You just take your filter, and some of them is going to have this screw right here. You'll have to loosen that if it is equipped with that one. This one, I believe it's still loose. There you go. Yes, it's loose. Move our lines out of the way so we don't break them. It'd be a bad day, and you twist this thing to the left. Alright, once it gets to its stop point, you should be able to take it and pull it up. And now we're going to reinstall it. I put a little bit of silicone grease on there. I should have enough on there. I put just a little bit. It just aids in it going in and out. So I'm going to drop it back in. It should, when you push, I like to turn it and push down. It'll drop down in its slot. And then once it's all the way in, it's going to end back in its original positioning. Alright. It's actually just a touch too far. Push it back a hair. Alright. Like that, so the lines are not stressed at all. Alright, now I like to clip the lines on. I like to hear a nice audible click. I like to give them a little tug. That one's on all the way. This one you have to push it on all the way, and then you're going to clip that on. You're going to hear an audible click, and then give it a good nice tug. That one's nice and tight. Kind of wipe some of that fuel off, and that is it on the fuel filter change. Now we'll go inside. We're going to reset the fuel filter life and show about bleeding the fuel system. Alright, now we're in here. Turn the key on. Turn the AC and radio off. The fuel pump's on. You might be able to hear an audible aeration noise. Heard a little bit there. I have a vacuum pump running on a truck behind us doing AC repair. There it is. Alright. That's the fuel pump. Now that fuel pump runs for 20 seconds every time you turn the key on. So we'll turn it off, turn it back on, and it's going to run for another 20 seconds. Now you can really hear the pump, and it's returning that air back to the tank as it's bleeding out. So you're going to want to do this, I suggest 6 to 8 times, maybe even 10, until you don't hear any gurgling or any noises like that. Sometimes you can come out to the secondary fuel filter and put your hand on it, and you can feel air coming through the filter. And once the air, the vibrations from it are no longer present, typically all the air has been bled. But we're going to move on to, we're going to reset the maintenance reminder for your fuel filter, and you're going to be using the switches here on the left hand switch pack. So we have the door open, so we're going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to scroll down to settings, vehicle. We're going to scroll down to maintenance. You also reset your coolant here. Today we're doing fuel filters, so we're going to hit OK. We're going to press and hold OK. And the fuel filter set to new. So that is good. Scroll back out. If you don't have this display on your particular truck, it'll typically only have fuel filter life reset. And if I recall, on that particular one, if you're doing an oil change, hit the top button twice and then press and hold OK, if I recall, and it'll reset it. but this is fuel filters we're doing today, so this is how you would do it. Also, we like to put fuel filter stickers on. This one's just a little bit early. It's about 4,000 miles early. It's 189, and then it's supposed to be done at 194. It's actually about 5, give or take. We're gonna go ahead and do it today when we got it in for brakes and some other services. But that is how you reset that. We're gonna go ahead and cycle our key here in a minute, and we'll come back and we'll go ahead and start it. Alright, so after cycling your key, I'd say closer to 10 is better. 6 to 8 usually works. You want to listen to your fuel pump. If it is still making a lot of noise, it's abnormally loud, go back and check and make sure your fuel filter cap is fully seated. I've seen numerous times trucks get towed in and the filter cap is one full round from being tight. If you lube the O-ring and the threads on the cap, typically aids in tightening, so it makes it easier to turn. So this is going to be probably about our 10th time here of the key on. The fuel pump sounds nice now. It's steady. You don't hear any aeration or anything. So we'll go ahead and try to start it. If it doesn't start, turn it back off. Cycle the key another 6 to 8 times. Verify that you've got all the air out of the pump and the fuel filter cap is indeed fully seated. It'd be a good time prior to starting to make sure you don't have any fuel leaks up on the secondary fuel filter, as that could be very bad. This is an item that you definitely want to do at your own risk. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, I'd suggest hiring a professional to help aid in fuel filter change. We're going to go ahead and start this up. It's a little bit of extended crank, but nothing too terrible. Probably would have been a little quicker if it had bled a little bit longer. I'll show you guys what I use to lube the O-ring and the gasket lid. This is what I use. It works pretty well. You can use grease if you want it, but that's what I've used the last 5 or 6 years, and I've never had an issue with it. So that's what I would suggest. That's how you do your fuel filter change. Come back, make sure you don't have any fuel leaks. They look good. That's about the sums up the fuel filter change on your 6.7 PowerStroke.